What would you do if a stranger rang your doorbell and claimed to be the real father of your children? This shocking story dives into a mother's past secrets, a mysterious man from years ago, and the terrifying possibility that everything she believed was a lie. Was he telling the truth? Or was it a cruel game that could destroy her family forever? My assistant brought me coffee in the middle of the morning, but she added artificial sugar, and I was sitting at my desk enjoying it. I threatened to use black tea in its place. The federal government was holding up the release of sensitive material, but I was considering a copyright issue that needed to be resolved right away. As usual, they were sluggish, making it difficult to accomplish anything. Extremely incompetent federal employees avoided accountability without explicit orders. How many people read a letter before something was done? I wondered. I couldn't proceed to my next project because I was stuck, and if things had to be destroyed, I would lose money. Simple issues had become more complex due to the rise of liberal concerns. Job titles had even changed. I thought I was too old for this bullshit. Jackie Stoddard came into my office and said, "There's a young lady here to see you." She gave me this photo but refused to give her name. I felt a sense of dread as I gazed at the picture. "Son of a cow," I said. "Why now?" It was an 18-year-old photo of my ex, Sharon, and me on our wedding day. It brought back memories of the hurt, infidelity, and tears. People were right when they thought I had come back to lick my wounds. I didn't understand power or money back then, but I've since changed. I handed Jackie a Ziploc bag and a USB drive and asked if she was Sandra Press or Susan Press. "Show her the video on this if she is. Give her everything and send the original back to me if she requests a copy. I'll answer your questions if you return later." I accepted being a bachelor at 42. My trust had been damaged by my brief marriage to Sharon Grace McCormick. It was difficult now because people had to earn it. I weighed 200 pounds, had a waist circumference of 38 inches, and was 6 feet 4 inches. After work, I spent 2 hours working out at the gym. I still attracted attention despite the slight graying of my brownish-black hair. I was not cut out for marriage or love, though I did have a few casual relationships. Jackie came back with the door open about an hour later. The young woman still had a lot of questions. She explained. Her grave expression indicated that she would not go without answers as she sat down. She waited for me to say something, her emerald eyes fixed on mine. "Which one was that, do you know?" "Sandra," she said. Why was she so shocked, and who is she? "We've been lied to all our lives," she sobbed. "He was also deceived, if my heart is correct. One of two identical twins is Sandra." 7 months prior to the twins' birth, her mother's final words to me before our initial divorce hearing are captured in the video you saw. "I didn't know she was pregnant, I only learned about them from friends. What would happen if I got in touch with them is explained in the remaining items on the stick. I was fired from the FBI on false charges by her father, who was then with the CIA, because he detested me. If I tamper with the documents, it seems like I have a contract on my life. He was a dangerous, strong man. She had been having an affair with my ex-best friend for months before divorcing me to marry him. He is their biological father, as far as I'm aware. What is she looking for, and how did she find me? Sandra Googled you and recognized you after discovering an old photo of you in their attic. She also discovered the original divorce papers and marriage certificate. She used Facebook and other online searches to find you. Her twin sister was running out of time, so she came to find a bone marrow match for her. Why visit me? Their father is not me. I said, it doesn't make sense. Months before I knew her, her mother was with her father, her dad made sure of it. Sandra persuaded medical professionals to perform a DNA test in addition to the bone marrow test because she had suspicions. They do not have a biological father in Mr. Press. What are your thoughts? My eyes began to well up with tears, and Jackie's face broke into a broad smile. My ex lied to me all those years ago, if Sandra was correct. I pondered whether I was their father. Jackie stood up and said, as soon as I saw her, I knew she was related to you. It's obvious from the way she looks. Jackie, are you prepared for what could be the biggest shock in years? Forward the stick's information to my publishers. Because my life may still be in danger, tell them to release it in a way that makes it impossible to identify me and to keep my writing name a secret. Emphasize that it must be released to the public immediately. Next, schedule an appointment with someone to perform a quick DNA test. When I confront their mother, I want evidence that I am their father. I need a litigation attorney to defend my parental rights if that's the case. I said, please clear my schedule, I have to get to Susan's hospital right away, I must now locate Sandra. Jackie called, come in and introduce yourself, Sandra. As soon as Sandra entered, I recognized her. At 16, she resembled my younger sister exactly. I was so overcome with emotion that I started to cry. Sandra and I both burst into tears. Jackie left us alone after snapping a few photos with her phone to document this moment that would change our lives. At 1, Sandra and you have a blood test appointment. When Jackie got back, she said, I charged it to the corporate card because they promised a rush job. I also reserved a private table and made arrangements for you to meet your sister Barbara at Kuntles at 3 o'clock. Sandra must witness our actions. Barbara will see to it that her children are cared for. She is aware that you have significant family news. I watched Sandra approach me while feeling uncertain and emotional. I had a lot of questions. Jackie shut the door and I gave her a tight hug. The idea that I might be a father was difficult to understand. As we walked out of my office, Sandra appeared to be trembling as well. We made an effort to keep things light as we worked things out little by little. We went out for a late lunch after making arrangements for the clinic to email the report. Sandra had skipped school and spent the entire day driving until she had to stop at a station to rest. I found out. I was upset that she would do something so dangerous, but I refrained from speaking because I thought I might come across as an overly protective father. And it made me think of something I would have done when I was her age. I saw Barb's car when we got to Kuntles. Sandra questioned, I know we're here to meet your sister, but why did Jackie set this up without first speaking to you? I answered, you're going to see what Jackie and I saw when we first met you. It will clarify why I was taken aback when the test result was positive and why we think you and Susan are my daughters. Dad, may I call you? Sandra said. I grinned and laughed. That would be wonderful. Kuntles was a well-known family restaurant that was a step up from Red Lobster. We were shown right away to our private booth by the hostess and owner. I placed an order for extra tissues and a bottle of champagne. I asked Sandra to wait while I went up to Barbara, who was facing away from us. I said, hello sis, thanks for meeting me. You look happy. What's going on? Barbara asked, looking up. Sandra came over and I said, Barbie, get up, I want you to meet someone. Sandra is Sharon's daughter. Barbara seemed to see a younger version of herself as she turned and stared. Long brunette hair, high cheekbones, small ears, light blue eyes, and warm smiles were all characteristics they shared. Paul, you ought to have warned me, Barb cried. This is not possible. You've been aware of her for how long? Sandra said, about 5 hours, with emotion. At his office, I caught him off guard. Dad and Jackie knew right away. When I see you, I know why. The server recognized our need for privacy and brought tissues back. The hostess moved us to a larger table after Barbara, in tears, explained that 3 more people would be joining us. Declaring a family emergency, Barbara called her husband to join us and asked our parents to arrive right away. When Mom inquired about the issue, Barbara said she was unable to provide an explanation. We were all feeling sentimental. Jackie texted me to let me know that the publisher had made the information public and that it would be featured on the 6 o'clock news. After our first glass of champagne, we had just settled down when my parents and Barb's husband showed up. My dad's loud voice made me laugh. This has to have a valid reason. To welcome them, Barbara and I stood up. Mom, Dad, Lou, let me introduce you to Sandra Press, Sharon's daughter. With pride, Barbara said. My mother grinned broadly in pride as soon as she saw the similarity. The granddaughter she had always desired was finally hers. For once, my dad was stunned and unable to speak. He said, I see it, but it's hard to believe, when he finally spoke. Too emotional to talk, my mother sat next to Sandra and held her hand. My dad was so proud that he ordered 2 more bottles of champagne, our glasses were refilled, and I picked mine up. I said, I need to explain, as Sandra began to record on my phone. I explained our meeting and the events of that day. Then my father got up. Sandra, what we already know can be verified without a DNA test. Greetings from our family, you will soon meet 2 more aunts. Make a commitment to always think of this family as your home. Sandra answered the phone. I had no idea what I would discover when I came here in search of the truth. For Dad and me, everything has changed today. Up until now, we were unaware. I learned about unconditional love when I met Aunt Barb. Susan, my twin sister, will experience the same thing. As everyone started to cry, I looked around the table. Tears filled the eyes of my father, who never cried. With a louder cry, my mother raised 2 fingers. I stopped recording after capturing everyone's happy tears. Sandra texted Susan, showed me the video she sent, and added her and her sister's information to my contacts. Sandra wrote, the DNA test will confirm if what we believe is true. Watch the news at 6 o'clock, your twin, love. My mom inquired as to whether she was still shocked. Sandra displayed her own and Susan's pictures. My mother insisted on getting copies for her laptop so that everyone could see them on the full screen. I realized that no one knew Sandra's location when she shut off her phone and returned it to her purse. My phone rang. Susan was the one. I got up and went to respond to it. When he saw me crying, my dad gave me a curious look. It's my sister, Sandra mouthed. My father gave a sympathetic nod. I also took the call. Hi there, this is Susan. I had to call after watching the video, she said. Mom is going to the police station to get an update on Sandra, so she won't be home until at least 7. I'm acting like I don't know anything. The police left their card here earlier. What should I do, in your opinion? Make sure he watches the news at 6 o'clock and listens to what is disclosed about me. Show him the video and tell him you'll talk when your parents aren't there. Ask him to text before calling. And give him my number. After watching the news, he'll understand, I said. Sandra and I may bring the entire family once we have the DNA evidence. What are you saying? Susan inquired. The family will tell others about Sandra's actions to assist you, I said. Those who can will come, but I'm not sure how many will. Why? She inquired. Family, I said. Blood is more important to the Patterson family than anything else. Someone else may be a match if I meant. Susan asked in a doubtful manner. I laughed and said, you'll see, of course. After all, we are strangers. She responded with sobs of relief as we continued our conversation before bidding each other farewell. I told the family why Sandra was here after placing the dinner order. Cell phones began ringing right away, phoning people to share the news and find possible matches. Everything was organized by my mother. How did you get here, Sandra? My dad inquired. I was driving my old Voyager van from 1994. She chuckled. It's a step up from a rent-a-wreck. Dad's parking lot is where it is. In the morning, son, bring that van to my dealership. That's not what she's driving back in, my dad firmly stated. It's a miracle she made it here. You make as much sense as she does at her age. She is resolute, I said. What are you going to give her? She can choose one, he said, smiling and winking. It would be a 4x4 if I could pick. I adore nature, Sandra remarked. My dad grinned broadly in response, as we all enjoy being outside. We were hunting, fishing, or camping if the weather permitted. With as many stories as if he were holding court, he began to reminisce about the summer I learned to water ski barefoot. My parents agreed that it wouldn't look right for us to be alone, so they insisted that Sandra spend the night with them. Dad took them to her car after supper and then drove it home, with plans to spoil her new granddaughter. My mother was ecstatic. In the end, Dad waited until 1 in the morning for them to arrive home. I received a call from the police investigator at around 10 p.m., his background check on me took 2 hours to finish. Regarding the information I made public, the media was ablaze with inquiries. We talked about the circumstances and associated issues. Many of his questions had been addressed by watching the 3 generations in the video. I informed him that Sandra was with my parents and that we were rushing DNA tests to verify our relationship. After confirmation, we would go back to check if Susan and I could be a match. I promised to keep him informed of our progress and asked him to give us some time. Later, Susan informed me that he had informed her of our conversation. I was facing my past once more, but from a different angle. The wealth and influence of my ex-wife's family wouldn't scare me this time. I would take advantage of the truth, the courts, and the media. I had the means, the evidence, and an increasing will. I wanted justice through the truth, not retribution. I was prepared to face the federal government and 4 individuals. I was in my office the following morning making sure that any changes to the schedule wouldn't have a significant impact on me and assigning Jackie some work to do while I was away. Like an overbearing mother, Jackie kept checking the email accounts, asking me about my day and gathering as much information as she could. To be completely honest, I could never get enough of Jackie Stoddard. She must have been the fantasy of every adolescent boy when she was younger. Her full lips and piercing emerald green eyes were still captivating, and her naturally styled brown hair emphasized her soft features. I used to admire her a lot as a single man, but I was glad she never noticed me. When the DNA test results finally arrived, she printed them out and exclaimed, "It's confirmed. Her father is you." Jackie started looking for the most tenacious litigation attorney in New York as soon as possible and called the lab to forward the information to Susan's specialist. She screened a few, picked the best, and set up a Skype conversation. The attorney, certain that the DNA evidence would prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, consented to work on a percentage basis. For depriving me of my parental rights, we would pursue my ex-wife, her spouse, and her parents. My restrictive court order would be overturned, demonstrating their willful behavior. Even if it were untrue, the alleged contract on my life would show their attempts at control and intimidation. Even before the government was involved, the attorney recognized the possibility of a big case. I instructed Jackie to send my new attorney a gray, dust-covered box from the safe. It included official documentation of Sharon's father's attempts to ruin my marriage and career. This evidence had been gathered over many years at different levels of government. Later, I found out that the police officer had made the video public, which sparked a media frenzy and changed the plot to one of a runaway daughter locating her biological father in order to save her sister's life. "I'm a father twice over," I said over the phone. "Mom, it's confirmed, thank God." "Have you called your daughters?" Mom asked. "Be prepared to leave tomorrow at 7 a.m. from the car lot. I'll spread the news." The tribe was on its way when my phone rang, and we were now traveling to Oswego, New York, in a fully loaded 2-year-old Ford Explorer, Sandra and I leading the way with my parents in a tour bus and 33 other vehicles following. After our greetings, Sandra put it on speaker and said, "You're being tracked by CNN." A sign on a tour bus reads, "The Carlsons are coming. 1 in 141 should match, and we have DNA evidence that he is our father." Sandra answered, "I have a new 2-year-old Ford Explorer." "If it was confirmed, a lot of family would come," Susan said, adding, "But I never expected this. I can't recall ever feeling this good." Dad's family spread the word, and people came out of the woodwork. It's given me a new hope I never imagined. I met first, second, and even third cousins this morning, and it will take several introductions to remember their names. "I never knew families like this existed," Sandra said, adding, "I'm so proud. I want to change my last name to Carlson." My decision to write about this incredible experience in my next book came about because I was so overwhelmed that I nearly lost my mind. My daughters were still discussing Sandra's experiences when Susan, whose mother had just come in, said she had to leave. "Dad, are you okay?" Sandra asked worriedly. "I noticed that you became very emotional. How do you think I'll feel?" "I found out that I have 2 daughters, one of whom is lively and full of life, who were raised without my knowledge by my ex-wife and a former friend. One is so strong and independent that she moved mountains without thinking, just like I would," I said proudly, "and she wants to take my name. The other is on the verge of dying." Sandra responded emotionally, "I didn't consider the impact on you. I was so focused on saving my sister's life. Because I inherited a defective gene from our mother, I wasn't a good fit, and the emotional turmoil I've caused will last for days. Can you forgive me? For what? Entering my life and appending everything? No, that's what life is all about. With tears in my eyes, I said, you've given me a chance to be a real dad. You've given everyone another person to love. Your grandparents love you, you and your sister have become my mother's favorites by birthright, and it means the world to see her face in you. We went shopping, and she bought Sue an outfit if she bought me one. She laughed, saying she had years of spoiling to catch up on. She has been spoiling us, I know, I've tried, I said. That's Mom. You can't keep her away from you. We found out that Sharon started having terrible panic attacks as soon as she saw the live news feed about our arrival. Barb and my sisters will boast about this for weeks, and by the end, it will become a family legend that is passed down for years. When she turned off her phone, Susan, feeling strong and alive, confronted her, asking, Mom, why did you hide the truth about our real dad? The walls she had built were collapsing. You made decisions about our lives and concealed the truth from us. What gave you the authority to play God? Not even Dad knew. She persisted when she received no response. Fortunately, Susan's doctor entered at that precise moment. Sharon had no answers, never expecting the truth to come out, and her father had hated Paul from the beginning and had done everything in his power to keep him away. If Sandra hadn't learned about him and sought the truth, would you have allowed me to die? He is coming to be tested. And there's a good chance he's a bone marrow match. He should be here tomorrow afternoon, and for his protection, he'll be under guard, the doctor said before departing. We received DNA from a man we didn't know, proving he's Susan's biological father. Susan said, my bio dad wants to give me a fighting chance, and he's risking his life to help me. He's bringing 140 others with him in case he's not a match. Mom, why? Sharon inquired. To him and his family, family is more important than anything else. Even though I am unrelated to them, I am family, she said. Sharon watched the video of my family meeting Sandra, and she said, you had to know we look like our real dad's mother. Watch this video, it proves everything. She could no longer deny the truth, there was no question. The face was the same across 3 generations. Then a man showed up at Susan's room entrance, asking for Sharon, and when she acknowledged that she was Sharon Press, he handed her a large legal envelope that read, you have been served. Her daughters had evidence, and her husband's actions were backfiring. Susan, enraged and without sympathy, asked, Mom, why did Grandpa put a contract on my bio dad's life, knowing she would not receive a response? Sharon broke down in tears and went to her knees. Following a business meeting, Arnold Franklin Press was served legal papers as he walked down the hall and took a seat in the reception area to read them. Paul was obviously seeking revenge, demanding sole custody of his daughters in the first document, which was a lawsuit against him and his wife for denying Paul his legal rights as the father of his daughters, and another against himself and his in-laws, accusing them of plotting to destroy Paul's marriage and career. He claimed moral abandonment, stating that if Sandra hadn't discovered him, he would never have known about them, and that it would be hard to prove otherwise in court given the media coverage. Arnold recalled his time as a football teammate and roommate at university, when he and Paul would have allowed Susan to die in order to protect their secrets. Arnold had even served as best man at their wedding. But because of his background, Sharon's father had never approved of Paul, who had wooed her. Under the influence of her father, Paul was occupied with FBI assignments, leaving Sharon and Arnold alone together until they fell in love while Paul was undercover for 2 months. He persuaded Arnold to pursue Sharon, and Arnold agreed. Sharon didn't know she was pregnant, so she assumed her missed periods were stress-related. Her father was thrilled to see Paul file for divorce right away after recording their affair and confronting Paul with the evidence when he returned. They knew Paul was the father when the twins were born, but her father had already had Paul fired on false pretenses. And it took him 4 years to clear his name, leaving the area in shame. In the meantime, Sharon and Arnold got married and had 2 sons. Arnold now pondered how Sharon would respond when this truth was revealed. Sandra, I, and the group arrived at our last stop of the night at around 9 exhausted from 14 hours of driving. The unedited tapes would prove the conspiracy between Sharon's father and Arnold to end the marriage. Sandra and I left early because I had a secret meeting with the police officer and an FBI representative, and the rest of the group left at 7 for the 6-hour drive. We ordered a light meal to be delivered to our rooms, and we promptly fell asleep until the 5 a.m. wake-up call. After Sandra dropped me off at the Oswego Police Department, I met FBI agent Chad Gerardo and Detective Peter Rogers, and we spent more than an hour and a half talking about my former father-in-law's interrogation. I also left a USB stick containing all of my evidence and my lawyer's contact details. A security guard escorted me to the hospital for a blood test to determine whether I could be a bone marrow match, and I heard Sandra and Susan conversing as I made my way to Susan's private room, where I was officially protected until I left town. When I walked into Susan's room, the hospital staff recognized me by my writing name, and I signed a book for one of the nurses. "Dad," Sandra exclaimed, startled, "I was surprised to see you so quickly. This is our father, Paul Carlson." Susan appeared weak, with loose skin and a face that conveyed the imminence of death. Despite this, she had a big smile and hopeful eyes. "Susan, the test is being hurried, it should be finished in half an hour." I tried to control my emotions as I said, "If there is more than one match, the doctor plans to do a double transplant simultaneously in both arms. The rest of the family is checking into their hotels. My parents are having their bone marrow drawn now and will meet you soon." I sat on the edge of Susan's bed and held her until she stopped crying, and Sandra took a picture of us both sobbing with relief and happiness. "Grandma, Grandpa, come in and meet my sister," Sandra said, and I was overwhelmed seeing my two daughters together for the first time. She was glowing with pride, and rightfully so. My mother and I were a perfect match for Susan, and after more than an hour of conversation, Susan's doctor came in smiling and asked if we were ready to be checked in for surgery at 6 a.m. the following day. We prayed for a miracle all the way up, and my dad whispered, "Thank God," and we both agreed. Susan questioned, "Don't you need my parents' permission?" "Normally, yes, but thanks to Mr. Carlson, we received a court order this morning that permits us to proceed if he or a relative is a match." Sandra grinned as Dr. Proctor explained, "The judge agreed that your mother and her husband weren't putting your needs first. Mr. Carlson will pay for any expenses not covered by insurance." "I'm not shocked, sis. Dad had no other option after what Mom and Arnold did, and since he had no legal rights, we used the courts to avoid any further delays." Incredulous, Sandra, Susan, and the doctor turned the TV to CNN, where I was identified as the author of a popular book series valued at an estimated $40 million. A security guard then told us we were going to be on national news. Unaware that I was more than a freelance corporate financial advisor, my parents stared at me in disbelief. "My God, Dad," Susan said, "all of your books are excellent," and I laughed while reading them. The success of the first book was a turning point, and it grew from there. I had to rebuild my life after my old one was destroyed, and writing was my therapy. For the first time in 15 years, my mom and I checked into a hospital, and my new daughter wanted to share a room with me, but the hospital security wouldn't let it. I keep my books up to date, exposing the unvarnished truth about world situations, societal views, and morals, whether people like it or not. My dad called some relatives to give them an update, and when they got home from work, Sharon and Arnold weren't happy that Sandra had spent the evening rushing between 3 different rooms. Sharon asked, "How?" Susan responded coldly, explaining that she was being prepared for surgery and would be getting a double bone marrow transplant in the morning as a result of a court order. Susan said, "Did you know who Jason Blackstone is? He's your favorite author. My bio dad, Arnold, and his mother are perfect matches. They're both donating so I can get a double dose and recover fully." Jason Blackstone is a pen name for my bio dad, Paul Earl Carlson. My bio dad's net worth revealed that Paul wasn't after money, which made Sharon and Arnold go pale. They had hoped the court case would go away. Paul was a successful agent until his termination because he always believed in law and order. He wanted justice. "Mom, did you know your father has been in FBI custody all day? You might want to ask Grandma if he's home." Sandra and I were in my hospital room talking about how she would deal with her mother when Sharon found her, and Susan smiled broadly and said, "Can you explain why this is happening?" Sandra is somewhere in the hospital, either in Dad's room or Grandma Patterson's if you want to see her. Mr. Carlson, do you know what Jackie stammered? I replied, yes, and he opened the door, letting Jackie enter. A security guard knocked and stuck his head in. Jackie, who had been my sidekick for 10 years, was now 35, a single mother, still getting used to being single. And still wore her wedding diamond. I had helped her get through her divorce after her husband had gotten his assistant pregnant. What are you doing here? I asked. I'm here to do what I always do. My family and I adored her, and I frequently questioned why she hadn't found love. It will take a week for your arm to heal enough to be used for light activities, so take care of yourself. Dr. Proctor said you would be here for at least 3 days and suspected you were a match, Jackie explained. I used the corporate card to book a hotel and a private jet. Sandra texted me, Dad, just so you know, she loves you. She was unable to leave. I arched an eyebrow. The guard stuck his head in. The security guard asked, what's your relationship with Mr. Carlson? Sharon and Arnold Press want to see you. Will you let them in? Jackie replied, only after they've been searched. Jackie said, I'm his fiancée. Didn't you see my ring? Sandra gave me a wink and mouthed, told you, I chuckled. Sandra said, Dad, I wouldn't trust these two for a moment, as Sharon and Arnold came in. Jackie started, your dad's lawyer has video showing your stepfather receiving a check from your grandfather as payment to break your parents' marriage. They're just trying to cover their backs. You don't know the half of it. Sandra, Jackie said, how do you know this is true? Sharon asked, and who are you? Mom, she's Dad's fiancée and a master researcher. If successful, he would manage your grandparents' finances for a 3% annual fee. I trust her more than you, Sandra said firmly, and Sharon's face turned white. Her name is Jackie Stoddard, I explained. Jackie speaks the truth, Sharon. Her daughters were separating from me, and there was nothing she could do. I ordered my lawyer to release all the video and audio tapes to the FBI, including a letter from your father admitting he paid for the recordings. Is it true that your father hated me so much that he didn't care how much it cost or who he used to get what he wanted? Sharon asked Arnold. And she could tell by his expression that it was. I want to talk to you alone after the surgery. Right now I need to go home and reflect. Jackie, a word of advice, don't let others manipulate you like I did. Sharon realized what she lost when I divorced her, the only man who truly loved her. I'll be back soon. Mom and I need to settle a few things. Will you walk with me to my car, Sandra? Sharon asked. Jackie, keep an eye on Dad until I get back. We watched them go. Sharon remained composed until she got out, at which point she began to cry. The truth had come out, their lives were shattered, and Arnold, who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, was paralyzed by fear. Jackie and I both realized that she had no idea what had been done up until this point. I feared this day, Paul. I thought you would never come back. Sharon would never trust him again, Arnold said. I never saw this happening. It's best I leave and say no more. I could have brushed it off if we had met by accident. He walked away, leaving us alone, and I gave Jackie the kind of look that a man in love should give her, causing her to blush for the first time. I had been living in other people's shadows, enjoying their excitement rather than generating my own, but my daughters had roused me. Was she playing me? Was she finally revealing her true feelings, or did I love her as a friend or something more? These past few days have woken me up, and I became complacent, content to watch the game from the sidelines rather than playing. Jackie, I said quietly, we have a lot to discuss while I'm in recovery. Paul, you took over when I got divorced. My children were still young, and you've been more of a father figure to them than their own father, Jackie said. I understand why you pay me well, more than the usual rate. You want to make sure the kids in your heart are looked after. You were always there, whether it was at baseball games or father-daughter dances. You always went above and beyond on their birthdays, making them the envy of their friends. You took us on special vacations. Making memories that will last a lifetime. You respond to their inquiries as a father would. I tried to say something, but I was unable. They love you, and you love them. Your fear of commitment is your only issue. Jackie was correct, and her words struck a deep chord with me, as did Sandra's. I approached Jackie and sat next to her, holding her hand. I gathered my thoughts as I stared into her eyes. I was intimidated by her father's strength and felt deceived by Sharon. I lived with a constant threat to my life after my best friend betrayed me, so I put myself in protective mode. Until a few days ago, I was unaware of it. Now that I am aware of it, is it too late for us to go on our first real date? Jackie kissed me after saying, "Took you long enough, you old fool." I texted Sandra to thank her and ask how things were going, and I texted our kids to let them know that we're now a couple and working things out. "I'm pretty sure of yourself," I said. "Mom didn't know," Sandra replied, "but she's taking it hard and won't be back tonight," informed Susan. Jackie and I went up to Susan's room, where we showed her Sandra's text and explained what had happened earlier. Jackie was then introduced as my girlfriend. After we were done, my sister Barbara came in and said, "I just had to meet her." "Jackie, what are you doing here?" "I want to say something," Barbara said. Barb, however, figured it out. "It took him long enough," she said, smiling. "He finally gave in, didn't he?" I excused myself and went to the nurse's station, texting Sandra to find out what Susan wanted for pizza. "This is your Aunt Barbara, Susan, and the man entering is your Uncle Lou, Barbara's husband," I said. "You'll soon learn we speak our minds, like it or not." I called Dad and asked him to bring Mom up for a pizza party in half an hour, and I ordered 3 extra-large pizzas and 3 2-liter colas for quick delivery, to which she replied that Susan likes everything except anchovies. The head nurse came in to calm us down but left with a piece of pizza after we went too far with the no eating for 8 hours rule. Later, she stopped me and said, "Your actions lifted the spirits of the whole floor. I am so grateful." My mom and I were taken to get ready for the procedure at 4 a.m., and we helped each other until we were wheeled in. I remained up until the drug took effect, and when I woke up, it was finished. The next step was to wait and pray. The majority of the family began getting ready to leave after hearing that the bone marrow transfer had gone smoothly and that it would take a few hours to see if it took. I said to Jackie, "You're like a bull in a china shop, impatient, unruly, and miserable." "But I'm not sick," I said, "describing you as the worst patient ever." "Keep it up, and you'll get a bad reputation," Jackie told me. Adding that my mother was doing well and that she returned my phone to me once she was satisfied that I was stable. Jackie's children sent me the first texts I saw, asking when she would get her engagement ring, Dad, and when we would meet our new sisters. I replied, "Jackie, your kids are smart," and showed her the phone, telling her that I was coming to Oswego to watch over her. Following the procedure, they had a lot of questions, and the entire story was revealed. "He's always treated us like his own, Mom, and most of our friends wish their dads were like him, so they weren't shocked," Jackie explained. "We've always seen him as our dad." She read the note and gave me a tearful look. "I guess we'll have a short engagement," I smiled. "Have you heard from the twins?" "Sandra and her mother are with Susan, and despite everything, she's doing well." Jackie revealed that although she's still taking medication, she's asking a lot of questions. Susan can't get over how much she looks like her aunt and grandmother, and she can't wait to have a girls' day out with them once she's well again. Sandra told her about the pizza party. I said, "Find me my pants." The nurses tried to talk me out of it, arguing that it was too soon after surgery, but I insisted on seeing her for myself before checking on Mom. We left hand in hand, and to our surprise, my pain was tolerable, and Jackie and I could see Susan's progress right away. "Who are Tammy and Timothy Stoddard?" Sandra asked. "My children, ages 13 and 11. Her complexion was better, and the sparkle in her eyes nearly made me cry. Jackie asked, "Why?" "They sent me a friend request on Facebook this morning, and so did Susan," Sandra added. I handed my phone to Sandra, who read it, grinned, and handed it to Susan. "You both need to read what they sent me," I said, adding their phone numbers to my contacts. We went to the waiting room after Sharon asked if she could speak with me privately. "Paul, I spoke with my mother for a long time last night, and she acknowledged that she remembered Dad's hatred for you, but she never anticipated this. I can't argue with my daughters." Sharon revealed, who want to finish the school year here and then move in with you. They want their last name changed to yours and believe that what Arnold and I did is unacceptable. They don't trust me anymore, and I can't blame them. Will you let them come? You know my family. They've made it clear that if I refuse, they'll go to court. No matter how I felt, they wouldn't let me say no. Jackie and I will both be happy to accept them, I said. If you agree to joint custody, I'll drop the suit against you, but it will still proceed against the rest of your family. We'll just need a bigger place. The twins are old enough to make their own decisions. Sharon consented to joint custody. But she turned down my offer to cover the cost of changing their name. The girls watched us closely as we made our way back into Susan's room. Jackie, it looks like we're going to need at least a 6-bedroom house, I said. The girls screamed with joy as Jackie grinned. Sharon said, girls, your father and I agree. If Jackie agrees, you get your wishes. Paul, Jackie said, are you ready for this? A house with teenage kids? No one is ever ready but will adapt. I'll call the lawyer tomorrow to start the legal process for your name change. Tam and Tim want you to adopt them, so I said, I'm just getting used to the idea of 2 carrying my name. Make that 4, they're already signing their names as Carlson. Jackie instructed them to text the children to inform them of our plans and then call Roger Mauser's firm to begin the paperwork, so that we know where to look for our new home. Let's find out which area has the best schools. Sandra grabbed her phone, went to her contacts, and put it on speaker. Hello, said Tammy. Sandra. Your soon-to-be older sister, said, who are you and what do you want? Is Timothy with you? Sandra asked, can you prove it? Because I can't, Tammy said. Really, are you scamming me? Tammy, Paul and I are getting married, Jackie said. Dad taught us not to answer calls or messages from unknown sources without proof. You were speaking to Sandra, Paul's daughter, Sandra added. Your dad and I have begun the process for him to adopt you and change your name to Carlson as well. Susan and I are changing our last name, and we're all going to be Carlsons. We've been waiting to hear how Susan is doing, so Timothy said, tell Dad it's about time, as we witnessed our blended family's first conversation. Jackie and I exchanged glances and she gave me a supportive squeeze. Susan said, I am getting better, so far, so good. I'll text you both to add my number. Our dad is the only father we've ever known, Sandra and Susan. Mom has been in love with your dad for a long time, and he's been better than any of our friends' parents. Our bio dad passed away before we knew him, Timothy said firmly. Tammy and I won't let anything come between us when we get together. We need you to accept that we're all siblings, nothing more, nothing less. Both of my daughters concurred. They're demonstrating your values and standards, and you should be proud that they took them seriously, Jackie said. Her eyes welling with tears, I was. We bid farewell for the time being and went to visit my mother, who was accompanied by Dad when we unexpectedly entered. My dad noticed a smile on Jackie's face and knew something was wrong. Mom, I said, you're already out and about. Have you seen Susan? How's she looking? Her complexion is getting better, and she seems happier, so it's good, but it's too early to tell, I said. If you both have time, we should have a serious conversation, my dad replied. We're not going anywhere, so let's get to it. Susan and Sandra will move in with me after school, and they'll adopt our last name, I said. The name change was the twins' idea, and Sharon agreed to joint custody. Both of my parents said that was great, but that's not all. Your son has chosen to turn me into an honest woman. Elizabeth, are you prepared to assist with wedding planning? My mom started crying, and my dad grinned broadly. They didn't need to say they approved because we already knew. I added that Jackie and I would begin looking for a house as soon as we returned, and that I would be adopting Tammy and Timothy, who would take my last name. We all knew how you two felt about each other, so my dad asked, what got your head out of your back? I've been trying to get your mother's approval in order to reason with you, Jackie. Have you thought about your wedding plans? We haven't talked about it much. But since we're combining 3 families, it should be a family affair. Mom said, Earl Carlson, act yourself. You're not at the yard selling a car, depending on who is footing the bill and whether the 19th hole is stocked with Jack Daniels. Barb could be my maid of honor, Lou Paul's best man, his brothers-in-law as ushers, Susan and Sandra as bridesmaids, Tammy as the flower girl, and Timothy as the ring bearer. Dad, will you walk me down the aisle with my father? Jackie smiled. What do you think, Paul? Jackie said, it's perfect, it will bring us all together. Dad laughed. I said, if that's what you want, let's do it. Should we invite Sharon? Both of my parents firmly said no. Mom, Dad, a lot will be revealed by the media in the coming weeks. I am bringing a lawsuit against the federal government, Sharon's parents, and her husband because I feel that Sharon suffered just as much as I did, and she is now paying the price in ways that are beyond our comprehension. Jackie and my parents stared at me in amazement as I explained that she believes she has lost her daughters forever and that inviting her could help her and the twins move on from the past and build a new relationship. My dad asked me gravely, where did that wisdom come from? These past few days have taught me a lot, I said, holding Jackie's hand, and Sandra's arrival helped me rediscover life. Exhausted from the surgery, we went back to my room, and I fell asleep quickly. Jackie stayed with me while I watched the news, which showed that Arnold Press and Christopher McCormick had been arrested for lying to the FBI. When I woke up, Jackie told me about my firing from the FBI, which prompted an internal review, and the person who had signed the contract on my life turned state's evidence. Susan is doing better than expected, and Dr. Proctor told us that my mother and I would be released the following day. He said that you will need follow-ups and to have your stitches taken out. We spoke with my parents, who chose to stay in the city until Susan was on the road to recovery. And they agreed to fly back with us on the private plane. The big question is how she will react as she weans off her medications. The bus driver was told to return, and Dad made reservations at the same hotel as Jackie. Over the course of the following few days, the media revealed the political scheming, backstabbing, and deceit that destroyed my marriage and career, spending a day talking about how Sharon's father tricked her into believing the lies and rumors. Dr. Proctor had declared with pride that Sharon was on the path to a full recovery, and Jackie and I were on our way to see Susan one last time before returning home. Sharon was publicly dissected like a frog. My publisher and I waited for a security release. And someone must have resented the bad press about the Fed's previous treatment of me, because within 2 weeks, over 1 million hard copies would be on the market, and I had 2 first editions delivered overnight. Your dad and I have set the wedding date for the first weekend in August. I signed them, Jackie wrapped them, and we hid them in a shopping bag, making sure Sandra would be there when we entered Susan's room. Jackie asked if you two would be my bridesmaids, and Susan said, hell yes. Aunt Barbara will be my maid of honor. Jackie, you recognized me right away and said, you're Sharon's daughter. How are we going to handle this? It shocked me when I first walked into Dad's office. I saw the 3 of them embrace. You welcomed me from the beginning. If you don't mind, I'll proudly be in your wedding party if you let me call you Mom. When things calmed down, I took out the presents and gave them each a signed first edition of my book, with the inscription, to one of the 2 prettiest ladies who call me Dad with love, Jason Blackstone or Paul Earl Carlson. Susan was thrilled when she opened it, and it was amazing to watch her literally leap out of bed. It was my largest book to date, with more than 600 pages, and her face lit up with pride when she opened the cover, saw my note, and then burst out laughing. I didn't need this, Dad. You've done so much already. She ran into my arms and sobbed. I don't know why she went into the attic, but I'm glad she did because it brought us you. Sandra knew that I had only a few days left, as the hospital staff had told me before you entered my life. Sandra watched us for a few seconds while she gave me a tight hug. Dr. Proctor thinks it wouldn't have worked if Susan had received just 1 transplant. Dad, you should know, she's gained 10 pounds in the last 6 days, Sandra explained, adding, I didn't know if you would come, but you didn't hesitate. The double transplant shocked her body into responding, you brought a tribe. I'm getting my best friend back because of the family. I tried to change the subject by asking how your mom was doing. Susan said that only someone who has been through it knows that it's a living hell, and she has filed for divorce and is going to therapy to deal with a lifetime of lies. She now understands what you went through and is ashamed. Getting Mom to trust again will be crucial. but she is resilient and will get through it with the help of her friends and job. She is currently unsure of whom or what to believe. Sandra, even with family support, regaining trust can take years and necessitates an unanticipated act of faith. Thank God you did, I said, referring to Sandra entering my office. Paul had me thinking I'd die an old maid waiting for him, Jackie added humorously. Now, ladies. Wait for your dad so I can take a few pictures, the best of which will be an 8x10 for his desk. We were taken aback to see Jackie's parents and kids waiting for us when we got off the plane. My dad liked hearing them call me Dad. I realized Timothy would have 2 older sisters and 1 younger, just like me. The kids' excitement almost knocked me down, and it spread to all of us. After Jackie and I decided to put off our pre-Sandra plans until after the wedding, Tammy gave my mom a hug and said, "I'm glad you're becoming my grandmother." I thought about how rapidly my life was changing with unexpected blessings. Jackie was aware of our needs, so I let her take care of finding a new home, freeing up time for my first fiction book, which revealed cover-ups and corruption. We kept in touch with the twins, and Jackie discovered a 20-acre property with a barn that needed repair. Susan was getting better and going back to school part-time, and we hired a firm to design our brick and steel home, which included a large patio, a pool, a 4-bay garage, and an outdoor kitchen. Jackie's shortened office hours allowed me to put in more work, and with the assistance of a publisher's editor, I wrote more than 300 pages and published my first book under my own name. Sharon divorced Arnold through my lawyer, obtaining alimony and funding for my education. After the twins' last day of school, Tammy, Timothy, Jackie, and I waited for them to arrive. Timothy noticed them pulling up our new driveway, and my cases were in mediation because they had lost the will to fight. We all went out to meet them, and as they got out of the Explorer, I realized that Susan had recovered so well that I couldn't tell her from Sandra. "We'll figure it out," Jackie whispered. As Jackie showed off the house, Timothy, acting as big brother, carried their bags, and 3 copies of my most recent book, Unexpected Blessings, which was a fictionalized account of us, sat on my desk in my office.